Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Adequate. Our ongoing mission until we are cancelled and replaced by something a little bit better. To review every Star Trek series and movie in existence. To seek out new guests and make them very uncomfortable. To boldly go where most other YouTube shows about Star Trek have gone before. What is this, Science Officer Synoiz? It's a Tuesday, and there's a new episode of Trekking Up North?
It feels weird. Like, it feels like we're meant to be chatting as though we haven't seen each other in a week. And I'm like, I just bloody saw you. You know, we just bloody did this, and now we're back, you know.
Good evening, Treks and Trekkers and Nerdy Up North nuns of all ages. Welcome to a very special episode of Trekking Up North on a Tuesday, because those goddamn people at Paramount decided to release an episode early and went, you know, you've got a schedule with guests. Straight out of the window. Yes, I would like to apologise straight out of the gate, because we were going to have the very lovely Joe Dove from Spectrum Sanctorum on to Joe Dove, the dove from above. We were going to have the lovely Joe on to review episode 7 of Strange New Worlds, but then Paramount released it early, and this has sort of been hashed and hobbled together to get this back.
How good is it though that it's like, it feels like Christmas. It feels like it's like, you know, when you get the advent calendar and you get 2 chocolates for one day and you're like, oh, don't mind
this was a juicy double layered chocolate of the Belgian variety. So yes,
it was a Troy-esque chocolate sundae. That's what this was.
So yes, but, Joe, I will say this first. Yeah. We need to get this out. Joe, sorry that you couldn't be on this week. We would love, if you would like to, we would love to have you on the musical episode Subspace Rhapsody next week. So I will send you a message, but yes, apologies.
Yeah.
How are you?
Do we have to do the whole thing through song? Do we have to do the whole?
Should I do the monologue as a musical overture?
That'd be so good. Let's do it. Okay, you've got 3 days to work this shit out.
I've only got 3 days.
Oh, come on! You can write a musical in 3 days, damn it!
Oh God, how does Andrew Lloyd Webber do it? Oh yes, Mountain of Cocaine. How are you, Synoiz?
Make yours better than Andrew Lloyd Webber. But no, like I was saying earlier, it feels weird. It feels weird chatting on with you and being like, oh, all the things that have happened, and it's only been like 3 days. But
oh God,
like,
yes,
which is kind of spooky. But things are going well. We had Northern Pride on the Saturday, and I got total social burnout. Basically, I thought that not doing drag for Northern Pride would allow me to just kind of be able to just, you know, drink and stuff, and instead I just spent the whole day saying hi to people instead of like chatting, and it was lovely. But it got to like 7 p.m. and I was like, I am sick of people. You know,
when you get to our age, guys, 7 p.m. is pretty darn late to be out.
that was the thing. Everyone else was like, oh, we're going clubbing, and I'm just like, oh God,
no.
But yeah,
no,
I'm far too old for this.
Not with my ankles.
I did a bit of it. I stayed out quite a bit. I stayed out till about sort of 11:30, and then about 11, and then I was just like, I'm getting Last Metro, which is a cop out, but it's cheaper than like a 30 pound taxi. So
it really is.
I was just like, I'm drunk enough. Let's just go home. But yeah, it was good. We got rained out though. Like, it was totally soaked. It was everyone who struggled through on Saturday. Well done. That was incredible. But like, bloody hell. And then on the Sunday, I didn't bother going because I was basically totally social. I was like, no, I'm staying in the house. I'm watching some DS9. I'm painting some Warhammer. That's my day, you know. And I set up the rest of the videos for Joe's podcast because I'm going to be on the Off the Shelf in not this Friday, next Friday.
Very exciting,
so
guys.
That should be fun. So I was getting my Warhammer collection put together for that, where we'll show it off. We'll probably advertise that on the things.
Yes, that's our friend at Spectrum Sanctorum. They do a series called Off the Shelf. Synoiz will be a special guest, and he's going to be flogging his wares to the Americans.
Am I a special guest or just a guest? Like a bloke? Here is a homeless person that we have put on the internet.
You'll see him. He is from the north with an F.
From the north. But did you go to the Nerdy Up North meetup on Saturday?
I didn't because I am poor. I graciously declined. I would have loved to have attended, but I had to graciously decline because one has no monies. So, guys, if you have disposable monies, please send them to me.
to you, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Put them in a boot, throw them in Goodwill's general direction.
Call it a gesture of goodwill, because fuck me, I need it. I am to the wall.
Bad, man?
It is. Man, yeah, it's that bad. Yeah. Damn you, Thatcher. Anyway, let's...
But I managed to accidentally, I wasn't intending to go, but I managed to bump into a few of the Nerdy Up North people at Monument, because I was literally on my way to meet a mate for breakfast before going up and doing the Pride March at the Civic Centre. And basically, I was walking past Monument, like Lee sort of came up to me and I was like, oh, hello. So I was having a chat with a few of them, and then I'm not meant to be here. I'm not meant to be staying.
That sexy Lee from the Discord.
Oh,
Daddy.
Daddy. Hello, Daddy. Daddy Lee. Oh, God. Hang on. You're a bad influence, because already I'm like perving over Lee and I'm perving over Adam. It's like, who's going to be next?
Adam? That 15-foot tall behemoth that wrote our theme tune and is currently writing our second and third theme tune as we speak.
There's more of them?
And there may be a hint of the third theme tune because it might have heart that's got a lot of faith in it. Do with that information as you will, but I will be using it.
I haven't been involved in any of this, and it's brilliant.
That's right.
I'm really excited about this. How has your week been, though, aside from being poor and being worked hard?
It has only been...
Tell me 3 good things that have happened to you since the last time we met.
The Strange New Worlds episode 7, the Lower Deck season 4 trailer, and I went to sleep.
Hang on, what's that? What's that again?
My usual Friday tradition of going to sleep to Synoiz's Twitch as he plays cards in Final Fantasy VIII, and it's lovely because you get the card music. It's like dun, dun, what was it? And then it's silent. And then Synoiz is sort of sat there going, if I get that card and I do that card. And it's just like, yes, it's like ASMR for my brain to hear Synoiz playing cards. It's just like, yes, now is your time to shut off.
It's really bad because it's like literally realizing how crap my maths is. Because like, I don't know if you haven't seen the stream in Final Fantasy VIII, there's a card game. And one of the rules is basically that if the numbers on your card, there's numbers on all 4 sides of the card, and if they add up with the cards that you're putting them next to on both corners, then it has a trigger effect where it chains through. But you have to be fully aware of every card that the opponent has and every possible combination there is on the board where they could put it and cause a chain reaction. And I'm just like, so you have to look at everything and count the corners and stuff. And yeah, it's far more difficult than I can manage on a Friday night after doing this podcast. So,
and occasionally there is a UFO that abducts a cow,
or the pyramids,
all the pyramids,
all the pyramids. We're actually going to do. I'm going to put an actual Facebook event on for the pizza party this Friday. Because since I'm going to be getting pizza, I thought everyone else should get pizza. So what we'll do is after the Trek podcast, we'll all get pizza, and then we'll watch me hopefully complete Final Fantasy VIII on the stream.
And then the UK's supply of cheese shall be diminished for one day.
Delicious cheese.
Anyway, shall we get into what I believe is the greatest standalone Star Trek episode since 2005?
You might be right. You may well be right.
Guys, this is
so good.
This is Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 7, TOS. That's right. TOS stands for Those Old Scientists. That's a reference for you straight away. So, yes. Stardate 58460.1. What? Hang on a minute, Captain Goodwill. That's not a TOS era stardate. No, it isn't, you sad bastard, for knowing that. This is the Next Generation era, because we see the Cerritos warping in, entering orbit of the Crowmouth B planet, home of a time portal. And we hear Ensign Bradwood Boimler. It's begun already with the misspeaking. He's excited to do some checks on a time portal, which is on Crowmouth B.
Hold on. You seem to have missed out a key thing about this, is that this whole segment is animated.
Of course, it's Lower Decks.
Yeah. No, but the fact is, this is just the most amazing thing where anyone who hasn't seen Lower Decks, who is watching Strange New Worlds, is just going to be like, what the fuck is going on? Because the whole, it literally does the recap of, here's the important stuff you need to know from the previous episodes, and then immediately just becomes a cartoon. And so there must be people watching it who are like, what's happening? Yeah, and it's fully animated. It's got all the voice cast. We get little cameos from all the little cool characters in Lower Decks and stuff. And it just felt weird. Like, it literally, I checked Amazon. I checked it and I was like, hang on, am I watching Lower Decks? Okay.
It was amazing to see, to load up, because I got the 4K version of this, and just to see the Cerritos warp in after you've got Strange New Worlds like previously on, and then the Strange New Worlds opening, and it's just like
jarring thing.
It's very jarring, but as Boimler says, they are in orbit of Crowmouth B to check up on a time portal which was discovered by Pike and his crew of the Enterprise, or the second Enterprise as he says, around about 120 years ago. Mariner couldn't really give a shit, because it's Mariner and it's just a dumb portal. But like Boimler says, it's been 120 years without any activity. It's due. And he's like, and he's trying to convince Mariner to get more excited, because he's like, come on, you got to be standing in the very spot that Uhura was, like Uhura was standing, and you love Uhura. And Mariner's like, well, I love Uhura because she had a life outside of work. And I love the fact that Rutherford comes in and he's like, the only thing I love Rutherford so much in Lower Decks, where he's excited to scan for Teleron radiation. And he's like, I love scanning new things, and I'm intending to just go, haha, science.
I think the fact is, this whole scene, like, obviously them being so silly, like, them being massive science nerds. What's her name?
Tendi.
Yes. I always think it's Temba, and then isn't that
his arms wide?
Yeah, and I was like, no, it's not Temba. No, Tendi. I just love that they're massive science nerds, but it's the idea of how clever this scene is, where it tells you, it gives you an introduction to Lower Decks if you haven't seen it, and the kind of humor and the kind of outrageousness of the characters, where everyone's at about 300% all the time, in order for it to translate to like the main episode, and they do it so well. It's just a wonderfully paced thing.
Well, Rutherford and Tendi are also like the opposite of Mariner, who just does not, he is not enthused whatsoever, has been an ensign for a very long time.
Well, the whole point though is that Mariner is an ensign because she doesn't want to get promoted, because it's an easy job.
Yeah, she's comfortable.
Like, they're talented enough that they could be, actually it's a bit like me, where basically they could do anything they wanted to if they did, but they're like, no, actually this is pretty comfortable, let's just stay here. And it's and everyone else is like really struggling to sort of like do things, and they're just like, no, I'm here because I want to be.
I'm comfortable in my job, I just want to get paid more so I could buy the Super 7 Thunder Tank, which has just come out.
Is that what you were talking about earlier?
Oh my God, yes. Sorry, quick. First tangent of the day. Super 7 have released a, oh my God, what I think is about 4 foot long Thundercats Thunder Tank.
Bloody hell.
And it's £500. And I have got nowhere to put it, but I don't care because I want it. And Paul has promised...
But there wasn't a pinky swear. I saw no pinky swear.
I've got verbal, I've got written, like, I've even screenshotted it. I've got written confirmation.
Well, if he argues, we'll just say a contract is a contract is a contract.
Yeah. exactly.
We'll bring in the laws of acquisition for him.
When we start making the mega bucks, he's going to buy me the Thunder Tank. Yay. I can't wait. But yeah, back to the show.
I love that was a random thing.
I know, yeah.
Yes, okay. Thundercats, Thunder Tank.
So yeah, Mariner has been put in charge of the landing party. And Boiler is naturally pissed off because he's like, well, why have you been chosen? I don't know, she says. Ransom just wanted to basically piss me off, I guess. And because, it's a boring time portal with a boring thing. So they beam down to the planet. And, yeah, Tendi says that this Orion, this time portal was first discovered by the Orions. Boiler immediately disagrees and said, no, this was discovered by Pike and his crew. It's clearly stated, no, it was my great-grandmother who discovered it. And Boiler gets maybe a little bit bigoted to basically say, well, weren't all Orions at that time just pirates? I didn't hear of any Orion scientists, and really pisses off Tendi. I mean, I would be pissed off, if someone said, oh, well, all of your relatives were just scummy Irish people that drank all the time, and it's just like...
I mean, that's a bad example because,
They were, but...
Sold.
There was a link to the Titanic, though. So, And then they murdered Lee Harvey Oswald. No, Lee Harvey Oswald murdered Kennedy. And I'm related to him. But anyway, second time. Yeah, second time. That's a 23andMe conversation later on.
This episode's broken you good.
It broken me.
It's so good.
But Tendi gets really pissed off at Boimler just assuming that all Orions at the time were pirates and dismissing the fact that it was her grandmother and a crew that discovered the time portal. Tendi storms off, and then Rutherford gets really excited because he discovers traces of heronium in the time portal. Now, heronium is an element that was used to build Starfleet ships of the era of Captain Archer, Star Trek Enterprise, and X-classes, and Boimler...
Is that real lore, or is it just something that they've injected in now?
Because
I've never heard of heronium.
I've never heard of it either, so I think they may have retconned it because they've said, oh, well, starships of the NX class, they were light, durable, and just the right shade of grey. And I'm just like, yeah, I get it. So yeah, Boimler does an impression of Spock on the portal, and then when Rutherford tries to take a holo image, he inadvertently activates the portal using the holo emitter. And then Boimler just gets sucked right into this portal and then gets just yeeted out in a live action scene on the other side of the portal, lands right in front of Una, La'an, and Spock. And straight away, Una's just like, we got a problem.
Yeah.
Holy shit, though.
That is an amazing intro, though, where it transitions from, animated to live action. And then just, and it kind of sets the tone of the episode, which is everyone looking at Boimler being like, oh, God, what is this?
But can we mention the opening credits being fully animated? I love this. And what I love the most, and literally right as I'm talking about this, the sucking nacelle creature from the Lower Decks opening is attached to the Enterprise most of the way throughout of it. As soon as I did that, a little tear came to my eyes. Because I was like, he's alive! He's alive in this era! And he just looks at the camera, he's like, as he's going past us. Oh, I fucking loved it. I geeked out over a nacelle-sucking creature. Oh, my God. I loved it.
I think it's wonderful that we can have an episode like this, bringing the two things together, because they're so loved. Like, Lower Decks has been such a massive success. Like,
I didn't know how they pull it
has
off.
Been such a massive success. And it's kind of... Because I genuinely didn't think that Lower Decks would... I didn't think it would be a massive success. I thought it would be like a 2-season, that was a fun little thing, kind of thing. And
it just really took off.
Kind of, like it's, they've had a DS9 episode where they basically had they had Quark and they had Kira and whatnot in it. They've had all these little things. They've had little tie-ins with Prodigy, and it's just so good, like going, oh wow, this is like part of the family, and then you're like, yeah, but it needs to keep its own thing. Like, it's a vacuum where things can go into it and be referenced in it, but it can't really be referenced outside of that. because A, it's too far in the future for the rest of them, and B, that's animated. The others are live action. Well, no, Prodigy's not, but
Yeah.
And then this one just goes, no, it doesn't matter that that's animated and this is live action. We can still have a crossover.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this so special, that they did it so well.
It's Lord. I mean, Mike McCannon, who's the showrunner, is a hardcore Trekkie and knows his shit. And like
you have to get all the gags in.
Yeah, but
Lower legs.
Very much, and I think an element of Picard season 3 took from Lower Decks, where it's like you can make references but do it in such a fluid way where maybe not so hardcore fans or casual viewers can just laugh at the joke, but then people like us can go, ha, it's Spock's helmet from that toy in the 60s. Or like, arbitrary little characters here and there, like from the Next Generation and Voyager and stuff like that. And it's just like, we get that, and then we get it on a deeper level. And they do it so well. And it's like, people, I mean, I had people coming up to me about Star Trek Picard saying, I have never seen any Star Trek at all. I watched Star Trek Picard and I was so engrossed in it.
Yeah.
And I believe Lower Decks is and I think Lower Decks is the same thing, because it's sort of like what do they call it? Not preaching to the choir, but like
a homage.
No, it's
pastiche.
It's
fan
service. So it's fan servicing, but then it's also like bringing in new people who've never seen it and are like daunted at the fact that, oh my god, this is like God. And a lot of people say like Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds can be your 2 entry points into Trekdom.
Yeah.
Without doing it, because they will educate you and they will teach you about the laws of alien races and stuff like that.
Well, that's the wonderful thing about the lore of Trek, is that you don't need to know all of it to enjoy the show. Anything that's really important will get sort of explained in the episode because of good writing, and anything that like is just a throwaway reference is like not mandatory, but if you get it, then it's more fun. Like people who only watch Lower Decks and like Strange New Worlds are probably looking at all the other Trek and then watching like Next Gen or whatever, and then being like, oh, that's what that is. Like in this episode, like people, there's mentions of Worf, there's mentions of Q, there's mentions of like, different drinks and stuff, and the people aren't going to know what they are, but then when they watch TNG, they're like, oh, that's Q, or that's Worf or whatever. And I think that's great. Like, or referencing that like Orions are all pirates and stuff. You're like, well, kind of, if you look at, this Enterprise.
I have this. I mean, god damn, this episode. Like I said at the top of the show, this is probably the greatest episode since 2005. And that's considering we've had Picard season 3 and season 1 of Strange New Worlds. Holy shit, that's a call. However, the second scene is started at 2291.6, so we're in the Strange New World era now, and they were on the way to Setlik 2 to deliver grain, which is specifically made for that planet. However, they discover the time portal and meet a time traveler, and they reference the comm badge straight away, and it's like, it's not just a badge, it's a communicator. You just press it, and Pike's like, oh well, flipping it open is the fun part, and he's like, I know.
Like I don't remember them. So they'd never used the badge as the communicator in the original series.
No, they were just sewn on.
They had communicators, yeah. That's it. Because that's when he said it, I was just like going, they've never flipped a comm badge open, but
So the communicators in this era, what Discovery did was use them as dog tags. So on the back of the badge, it would have like your name, rank, and serial number. And then Section 31 in this era were using the badges as communicators, because it was referenced in season 2 of Discovery. Because, what is his name? Michael Burnham's love interest, season 1 and season 2. He presses his badge, and Pike goes, oh, well, that's new. But yeah, so they still had the flip open communicators. Back in sickbay, Boimler wakes up, immediately believes he's on a holodeck, pokes Pike, and he goes, "Never mind." And I
No,
love,
I love it. He immediately wakes up and he's like, "Computer end program."
yeah, never mind.
And to them, they've never seen a holodeck. They don't have
No,
any clue what this is.
it's exactly, and I love the fact where, because I mentioned it to you before we started recording. I love the fact he's like, "Oh my god, you're like," and he looks at Megan and he goes, "Oh my god, you're Chris." I love Jack Quaid's performance all the way through this episode.
I think everything about this, like when we have I was kind of complaining about the Spock episodes in that they're a comedy of errors where it's like, oh, what can go wrong now? But this is a perfectly telegraphed comedy episode where, when you think of, okay, time travel in Trek, it's always been a case of, okay, be careful, don't do anything to disrupt the timeline. It's really important. Like we had the Larn episode where she time traveled, where it was really just going, hey, don't do anything. You could really mess up the future if you do something. And then this episode basically goes, okay, so knowing that, here is the most incompetent person in the entire world and a person who gives no fucks about anything, Mariner, and they're the people who are sent to the past. And everything Boimler does is literally just like, oh, don't touch anything. Touch. And the amount of leaks about the future he gives in this scene where it's literally like them listening and Pike just being like, no, don't tell us anything. It's so perfect how fucked they are.
Hear me out on this. I'm going to make a bold claim for you right now. Boimler is, I know, Bradwood Boimler is Arnold Rimmer, but nice. Beckett Mariner is Lister, but clean.
Yeah, actually, I'll agree with that. I'm not sure about Boimler being Rimmer, because the thing is, Boimler's talented. He's a doofus, but he knows what he's doing,
Rimmer.
Whereas Rimmer is literally shit.
He's Rimmer.
Rimmer literally didn't pass the officer's exam.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. He's Rimmer, but talented and not a dick.
But that's all Rimmer is. Rimmer's literally an untalented dick, and that's his character.
But he wants to go up the juggernaut, lickety split.
It's like this idea of, okay, so it's Rimmer, but you take away the fact he's a twat and you make him talented. You're like, that's Ace Rimmer. That's literally...
Oh my god, he's Ace Rimmer.
It's a whole different character.
Smoke me a kipper.
Anyway, tangent time.
They know that...
We're not doing very well without the chat keeping us on track.
Sorry, chat. Sorry, Beth. Sorry, Chris. Sorry, Nerdy Up North. Sorry, Mark Cartier. Sorry, anyone else.
Oh god, imagine if Mark... Oh, I can't wait to hear what Mark thinks of this.
Mark, we're going to have Fear for the Heart as our theme. Nah.
Oh,
sorry.
I've got faith
of the heart. Why do I sound like Louis Armstrong?
That went a bit Bowie, sorry.
Sorry. I went Louis Armstrong, you went Bowie. I don't know why.
Practically the same person.
Trees of green. Anyway, so they know he's from the future, so he drops his facade really quickly, and he's like, oh, I'm freaking out. Una comes back with his badge and he immediately freaks out. Like he gets very standoffish with Una, doesn't make eye contact with her. They go to set up some quarters with him and he leaves, and Una's like, does he know something about me or my future?
It's the thing is, his whole thing is to A, keep it secret he's from the future, B, not influence anything, and C, not raise any suspicions. And he fails at all three in about a minute.
Because La'an's educating him all through the corridor, like, you can't do this. It's like a butterfly effect. You don't want to cause ripples, and he's just like, wharfs on her.
Yeah, that's it. And he's like, oh, hang on. You don't know who that is yet.
Crap. I love that, but there's a lovely little scene with La'an that basically says, don't get too involved with anyone from the past, and he's like, is it sort of a new rule? And it's like, oh, La'an, we know you've got the hots for Kirk. We know.
Which is good, because she better keep her fucking paws off my Sam, basically.
Ooh, mustache daddy. There's a meme that's going around about Spock and Sam Kirk, and I can't do it because it will spoil people who's not seen the original
You were telling
series.
me about these memes, like this meme thing the other day, and then I saw one the other day and it made me laugh. Just that whole scene is so good.
Back in the
Yeah.
ready room with Boimler, I love the fact he's like, Ensign's log, stardate yesterday. No, stardate the past. But he sees, you can tell this episode
What's he recording it on?
On his comm badge. You can do a personal log on his comm badge.
I don't know, he's just recording it on their computer,
No.
so it's going to be a massive, like,
So
temporal breach anyway.
You could tell this episode was directed by Jonathan Frakes because he sees Pike's saddle and immediately he just goes, Riker! Gets his leg over the saddle. I love the fact he goes, Riker. I'm going to start doing that now. Every chair I mount, it's just going to be Riker.
But I think what's funnier is that he's in this room. We don't know what room it is. He like literally is pissing around with everything there. And then he does that, and then it cuts, and Uhura's just standing there. And it's just like, we assumed he was just alone messing around.
I'm just appraising it.
Yeah, he's doing it in full view of Uhura, who's trying to work. And it's like,
and he's freaking out about Uhura, and then he gets called to beam down to the planet with Mbenga and Spock, and he's starstruck about Spock, but then he's like, I love the fact, because he's me with purple hair, because he goes to the tricorder, and he's like, is that a classic TS-2 122? And Mbenga's like, it's a 220. Hey guys, that's the TS-122 over there. That's all I'm gonna say. And he's like, oh, I love this design, and they're so eloquent, and yes, they got smaller and powerful, but they didn't have like the chance to explode. And that little whisper from Mbenga's like, explode.
But I love the idea of just like literally going into the past and calling everything, oh my god, you got a vintage one of these. And they're like, no, that's just a thing. That's just one of them. That's a
thing.
You know, it's not vintage yet because it's like the current model.
Yeah. So they're trying to find out how Boimler got transported into the past. And Boimler says, well, Rutherford was trying to take on Holler Image, and obviously that discharged some particles which reacted with the time portal, and that's how he ended. I guess it was dumb luck. And Spock laughs, and it took me back to the laugh because it was like, oh, and I was like, oh damn, that's kind of freaky. And it does freak out Boimler.
It's like, can we just say like how freaky they've made Spock in this episode?
It's very freaky.
It's just literally, it's like the movie Smile, where it just keeps randomly cutting to like Spock just literally standing there like. And you're like, what the fuck? Why are you looking at that? But the fact that Boimler's genuinely terrified of it, being like, A, this is not right, and B, that is fucking sinister.
It is really.
And Spock's just like, I'm humaning.
Yeah. This is how a human smiles.
Yeah, and then that bit where like Boimler tells a joke, and then like Spock just literally just laughs in his face.
But then they get a call from the Enterprise. They have to come back because a ship has just warped out, and they believe it to be Orion. So Boimler again.
I don't think they think it's Orion.
They do.
They just the ship,
well,
but then
it looks
Boimler was the one who says,
it's potentially Orion, but he converted because he gets onto the bridge and he's freaking out, and he's like, I'm on the bridge of the 1701, no dashes, and like, what would come after the dash?
Yeah, Lon's like, what would come after the dash? It's like, cause there isn't an A or B.
Yeah, and like, I love the fact that Pike's going, Mr. Boimler, right here, stand next to Daddy. I love that. I love it though, because he is literally doing what most Trekkies would do and just like freaking out and fanboying about it. He's like, oh, Artagas, you're a war hero. And he's like,
yeah, he just says that, and you're just like, oh god, like literally the temporal directive. But
then
he just comes over and he just says stuff about people that they don't know.
But then I start to fanboy at this point because Pike being Pike, and he believes it's an Orion pirate ship, although it's not powered up any weapons or shields, prepares a full torpedo spread. Boimler interrupts and says, no, I believe that this is a science vessel. Doesn't give it away, and Pike starts kicking off like, what are you doing? They hail, the ship hails them. Holy shit, Synoiz. I freaked the fuck out. I did a Boimler because the captain of the Orion vessel is Joseph Seed from Far Cry 5.
Is it?
That
just finished that?
That is Greg. Far Cry 5. That was like 5 years ago.
Was it? Oh, what was the one you were playing the other day?
Far Cry. Oh yeah, I've just finished it on Twitch. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Greg.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, it's Greg Brick, Canadian actor, and I was like, I sat there and I was like, holy shit, Joseph Seed's green, and I was looking at it and I was like, oh
That's
my
his natural
god,
color. He has to joker it.
Yeah.
He has to joker it up to go out in public.
and I was like, the father is an Orion captain.
Daddy.
And I was like, oh my
Oh,
god. And I started freaking out because I was like, I love Far Cry 5. It's like one of my greatest games of the previous generation. And that's why I played it on. Guys, for those that don't know, I also do Twitch. And my very first playthrough was Far Cry 5 non-stop. So it's a very like wonderful game for me. And it's sort of like introduced people to how unhinged I am. So to see Joseph Seed, like Greg Brick in Strange New Worlds, I was like, this is like full fucking circle for me.
I just love that in this one scene we get double daddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Double daddy.
Double D.
Double D, yeah, we get double D'd in this scene.
Yeah, yes.
And I like that.
Yeah, really. Takes note. So not so much of a game now.
What we were talking about earlier with the bloody the stuff of the girl podcast, but I can't mention that yet. But it'll come out in future weeks, I think.
I really want to go off on a little tiny tangent, and I can't. But shall I do it? Shall I do it? Fuck it.
I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about it.
No, this is nothing. This is when we were at Nerdfest.
Oh, right, yeah.
So Synoiz was at our first convention at Nerdfest, where Nerdy Up North was a cosplay judge. And this is one of the reasons I love Synoiz so much, because he will never...
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I'm going to tell him. He will never cease to amaze and make me laugh to the point where I need the lavatory. We were entering people into the cosplay competition, and Synoiz had just turned up as himself because he's naturally fabulous. And someone has said, "Who have you come as?" And without blinking an eye or any pause whatsoever, he just went, "A big gay." I had to get up from the table, and I had to walk behind the curtain because fluids were about to escape because I was laughing that hard.
I think it's though, like I think it's an accurate cosplay, really.
But then you did it at SunnyCon when someone said when you were in full drag, and then someone said, "Are you entering the cosplay? Are you entering the cosplay?" And you went, "No, I'm untalented," and it was just so. I can't cope with you
so
and your.
dumb.
I can't cope with your comebacks. They are too immediate.
There was one in, I think it was in the thing at SunnyCon, and a woman was like, "Oh, what have you come as?" And I was like, "A disappointing egg." But yeah, so they're fun. Okay, we need to get back on track. Sorry, chat. We are talking way too much.
At least it's not.
Imagine the poor bastards listening to this on Spotify, being like, "Are they going to talk about the episode?" No.
We'll put audio description. We'll just put Paul dubbing, laughing out loud. At least it's not deuterium. So anyway, yeah. So. The Orion captain wants to know what the Enterprise is doing in this area, because this is Orion territory. It's rife for piratism. And Pike just says, "Oh, we are conducting scientific studies about the object on the surface of the planet." And I love the fact he just beams up the portal and does a runner with it.
Yeah, he just goes, "Oh, yoink."
Yeah, and it's literally
it's
a yoink. It's a space yoink, because they're just like, "Captain, they're beaming up the portal. Captain, they're gone." And it's just gone. And then the look he gives Pike as well. The look he gives Boimler, Pike gives Boimler, where he's just like, "They're not pirates." Oh, you.
They just nicked.
Yeah, and the next scene where Pike is talking to Una in the ready room, and he's just like, again, cementing the daddyisms of Anson Mount, because he says, I feel like I'm taking care of a toddler who doesn't know how to behave himself, in reference to Boimler just constantly fucking up the timeline.
It's not fucking up.
He believes he is.
Just literally going and like touching everything and just literally just needing constant supervision, and it's just like, it's so good. It's such a perfect.
Speaking of, he's in the bar, he's messing on with a pad, and Ortegas and Chapel scare the ever-loving shit out of him and try and wind him up about space chronotons and the effects of time travel, throwing up, shitting himself. And he tries to, because they basically say, like, oh, so what's the future like? Do you have jetpacks? And Chapel's like, we've got jetpacks now. Yes, but are they smaller?
Just like, we've got jetpacks now, and yeah, smaller jetpacks.
Yeah. But I love the fact, because he cleverly turns it on to Chapel and Ortegas, where they're like, so what's it like being on the Enterprise? This is the golden age of exploration, and you guys get to live it, and I'm jealous of that. But then he lets slip, because they're going on about movie night on the subsequent Friday, and they're like, oh, you're gonna have to come to movie night, and he's like, oh, you're doing it for Pike's birthday? Crap. No, he doesn't say crap at this point, because he's like, oh yeah, it's Pike's birthday on Friday. Yeah, and then in the future it's Captain Pike's Day. It's a national holiday.
Oh,
crap. I love that, and he's just constantly fucking up in such minor little ways. But then Spock walks in and smiles at Chapel again, and he gets freaked out, and I love that. I absolutely love it. But
it's so good.
But then running to the turbo lift to speak to Chapel about Spock, and he's like, I think I've broken the timeline because I told Spock a joke and I made him laugh, and I know Spock never laughs or smiles, and I read every book. Why is he smiling? And he's basically making Chapel feel unfucking comfortable, because she's like, he's kind of the reason, like, I'm kind of the reason he's smiling and laughing, and you're telling me that's not a good thing.
Well, it's more the fact, I think it's more the fact of she realizes that her relationship with Spock isn't going to last. Because it doesn't last into the future, where the Spock that he's becoming for her sake isn't what lasts into the future. And it's kind of put a bit of a dampener on things, because she's like, oh, okay, I'm not the one for him. And, and it's a bit kind of scary in that way. But then again, though, like, Spock in this episode, it's like, I kind of like how the original series had Spock as a comedy character, and like Trek has always done that. It's kind of is it kind of racist a bit, where all the aliens are always
xenophobic?
Well, yeah, they're like always comedy, where like the fish out of water, where it's basically Worf is hilarious in like TNG, because it's literally this Klingon warrior, and then they just get him silly things to say or silly things to wear. Like, he's like, I'm not a merry man.
I'm not a merry man.
Yeah.
Good tea, nice house.
Yeah, good tea, nice house. All these silly little lines that work because he's meant to be this fierce warrior. And then in the original series, you had Spock, where Spock was always the one who was just saying unexpected shit, or reacting in weird ways, and then it was like subject of like, hilarity. No,
back on.
It's a shame for Chapel here, though.
I think she realizes that it's not going to last at this point, which is, I think, it's the sad point of the episode, because back on the bridge, they are struggling to locate the Orion ship. Boimler immediately says, "Well, I can do it, but what happens if I not tell you and you just turn around and I do it?" And I love the fact he's just got the bridge crew to stand at the back of the bridge away from him as he's just hooking up all the wires to find the warp signature. I'm like, oh my fucking God. And then he gets tangled in the wires.
Yeah, I love this, where it's got to the point where they fucked up the timeline so much, they suspect, that they're like, fuck it, do whatever. Just do whatever.
Yeah. Well, they locate the Orion ship, so they warp into their vicinity, and Pike is all for kicking the ever-loving shit out of the Orions to get the portal back. Boimler implores a more peaceful solution and a more peaceful approach, and implores on Pike's benevolence, forgiveness, patience, and really great hair. And I love that, again, Spock as the comedy. Just Spock just turning around, just going... just looking at the hair. But that is an acknowledgement for Strange New Worlds fans there, because straight away out of the gate for Strange New Worlds, it was the hair. It was Pike's hair. It was the source of memes, adoration. I wanted grey hair for a period of Strange New Worlds Season 1 because I was like, oh, damn. Yeah, I even, like, there was 2 roads I was going to go down. A long road. It was either going to be frosted tips or it was going to be grey hair.
Okay.
I went with the
frosted
former.
tips. I think the frosted tips worked really well.
They're coming back. They are coming back.
Are they? They're coming back.
They're making a comeback. Season 2 of Frosted Tips is coming back soon. So Pike capitulates, hails the Orions to talk. Boimler again says, you know, Orions, they respect trade. You know, don't make any threats or anything like that. Trade with them. And I love the fact the Pike goes, any suggestions? Not you. Points to Boimler. And he's like, fair. And then he just goes to Spock, can you just tell him that the Orions respect trade? And if we do, he's like, I can hear you. Oh, well, I thought the bridge wouldn't carry the... Right, so... Yeah. But then, so they offer a trade, and the Orions scan the cargo halls, and they're like, you've got a shipment of quadritricale. Which, shout out to A Trouble with Tribbles in the original series, is what K7 has got a whole stock of, and what the Tribbles all go, nom 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 on. Quadritricale. Do you like that?
It sounds lovely. It sounds lovely.
Well, the Tribbles
let's
loved
have some of that with chips.
The Tribbles loved it. It's like it's like Ricicles. Do you remember Ricicles?
Ricicles. They were basically
They were Rice Krispies with diabetes on them. That's what.
Yeah, I was gonna say Rice Krispies were basically shit Cocoa Pops, but then Ricicles were like a step ahead. Both of them.
Yeah, you had Snap, Crackle, and Pop, which is what Chavs in Sunderland are called when they're high on meth, and then. Ricicles were like, here's Rice Krispies with a dollop of sugar that will rot your teeth. And like, oh my God, they were just absolutely If you got Ricicles in a variety pack, you know you struck gold. You know it. You're on mute.
Still around.
You're fine. You're back now. Sorry.
Oh, yes. Are Ricicle... No, it's just because I was pouring drink. Are Ricicles still around?
Don't know. Chat, are Ricicles in around? Comment on the video below if Ricicles are still around. Send me a thunder tank filled with Ricicles. That's the demand.
Don't send him.
No, don't, because
send him a thunder tank.
It'll devalue the thunder tank. Send me a box of Ricicles and a thunder tank in separate boxes. So they make a deal to give the Orions the entire shipment of quadritricale in exchange for the portal.
And the Orions go for it.
They go for it.
Very fair to them. I thought there'd be some trickery here, and then they just go, because the next scene that we cut to is them back on the planet with the portal there, and they're just like, oh, okay, the Orions totally, because I think that's the thing. It's the Orions get a horrible name throughout Trek because, like in DS9, we have the Orion Syndicate, where they're basically the biggest. They're basically the mafia of space. Yeah. In Enterprise, they're kind of coming up to it, where they're basically like a very, the Orion Syndicate's in it, but they're a very burgeoning power then. And they're always seen as bad,
Well, they were in Enterprise, because even the Big Show was an Orion.
Yeah.
And he's just like, he's an Orion slave trader.
Yeah. That's it. It's like Orion slave girls, and I think you got slave men as well.
But this is the plot twist, mon ami. 'Tis not the Orion women whom are the slaves.
Are the slaves? Yeah,
'tis
exactly.
the men. That's the biggest plot twist you will ever see.
I really like that because obviously, sort of like the original series had Orion slave girls, and then it kind of went. That's not very PC. And then Enterprise kind of turned it on its head by being like, well, actually, the twist is that they're actually the ones in charge.
They use their mighty sexuality to lure the men. And,
which I think is great. But
everyone was thirsty in that episode of Enterprise, but...
but we're back on the planet. And they're actually going to give an attempt to send Boimler back.
Only one attempt because they've got enough power. Yeah.
Spock says that there's only enough of the particles left to do one actual attempt back.
Yeah.
And it's a bit standoffish. It's a bit standoffish, this scene, because basically, like, Boimler's like saying goodbye, and everyone's a bit like, fuck off. Everyone's a bit like, we're
I love the
seeing you.
fact Pike's like, it's been a day.
Yeah, that's it. He's not even he's not even going to be like, oh, it was lovely to meet you. He's literally like, please go.
Yeah, bye.
It'd
Don't
be a
let the
nightmare.
don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Bye. But they power it up.
Yeah.
Boimler is making his last goodbyes, and holy shit, he gets twatted in the face by a flying mariner who comes through the portal. Holy,
To save him, no less.
to save him, yeah, and I love Beckett Mariner, I love Tawny Newson. Again, another passionate Trekkie. But the portal runs out of fuel, and
They basically come out. She gets up and goes like, "I've come to save you," and then they're basically looking around, and then the portal just stops,
wait,
and they like just closes in the background. And you're like, "Oh god."
did I time travel? Oh my god, this is awesome, but seriously, is a hurrah here?
No, I wrote down the line she says because it's amazing where she looks at like Pike and everyone and she's like, "You guys are great, but is Uhura here?"
And you can hear her in the background.
Imagine going into a room, going into any event and being like, "Oh, you guys are lovely, but it's such fuck off, all of you."
I love the fact that like Pike's like trying to communicate like 5 to people, and she's like, "Ooh, ranks on the sleeves? I don't know. Oh, look, he's got the flippy thing. Look, he's got the flippy thing."
Yeah, I think this is what's so funny, and what I was saying before we started the episode is before we start recording is the fact of this episode. The writing does it so well.
Oh my god, yes.
Where it basically goes, okay, we're gonna do this in stages so that you can enjoy everything properly. Where basically Boimler gets his own time in the sun, where it's just him, and then Mariner comes along, and it's paced really well, so that basically we get to see it kind of ups the ante where we go, okay, Boimler is clumsy and scatterbrained and a threat to the temporal, like whatever it is, to temporal mechanics, whereas Mariner doesn't give a shit. Like,
Yeah.
Mariner literally just comes out guns blazing, being like, "Hello, here's what happens in the future." Like, she does not have a care about anything.
IDGAF to the max. Because this is the shortest episode of the season, but it would not you would not believe it with how punchy and how well paced it is and how everything is just executed perfectly all the way through. Because the next scene in the ready room, like, they're in the corner and they're like, "I didn't know where you were. You could have been in, you could have emerged in a dystopian San Francisco in the middle of a riot." And then, like, I'm processing that.
Which is a reference to DS9.
DS9, yeah. I'm processing that, right? So I'm sat there and I'm like, that's a Gabriel Bell reference from DS9. And then Spock and Una are going, they mention weirdly, like, specific references. And I'm like, even that's a reference to the reference about... And I'm like, oh my god, like, my brain could not process it. And then...
And it's so funny, just them just chatting on together, and then the rest of the cast just being like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
What are they saying? And everything they say is effectively breaking the
But then she's like, dude, young Spock is hot. Look at the ears, look at the face, look at the chest.
I think he's a Vulcan. He can blatantly hear.
Yeah, exactly. And then they sit down at the table, like, and they're trying to, like, oh well, one time traveler is a problem. Two time travelers could be disastrous. And Mariner's just like, I thought you were cool. They are. It's serious. Shut up.
Yeah.
Because they've got no more Heronium left.
I love the rapport between the two of them, where it's literally, I've forgotten what Mariner says, but like Boimler's just like, could you please just not? And it is just like, but yeah, just everything about Mariner's way is amazing. Both of these characters have been personified perfectly in like real, like obviously because I think it's the fact of the transition is seamless, even though one of them's a cartoon where the actors aren't needing to do physical sort of movements or anything, they just do the voice. But then here, like, they're just like their cartoon equivalents, where the way they're acting is the same, and it's just wonderful, like the way. But I really liked how Mariner's like reaching across the table, like she's so dramatic, and she's so sort of she's bored. She's in this meeting and she's already bored of it. And
Yeah,
it's like,
because they come to the right. They conclude that there's no more heronium. There's no more heronium in the quadrant. And then Mariner's just like, can't we just cook something up? And everyone stares at her, and like just the body, like the physical movements where she just drags her hands across the glass table. It's just like that. But then Spock defends her, and she's like, she has a point, and then she looks at Boimler and goes, "Heart Spark agrees with me."
it's just the rapport between both of them. Like this is why people need to watch Lower Decks. Like I think there's something even more special about it being live action.
Yeah,
but
I hope they do, and I know it probably never will happen. I hope, because you can only do it with Mariner and Boimler, because the actors who play Rutherford and Tendi look very different. So so I hope, I really, really hope there is another time travel shenanigan years down the line with Beckett and
I'm sure after the success that this episode will have, because we are fans and we are just in love with how good this episode is.
The banter between them both. Yeah, the banter between them both. But yeah, so Spock latches on to the idea of cooking something up, and he says it could be risky. And then whilst they're doing that, they found some ancient writing on the portal. And they said Uhura is in her quarters trying to translate it. And this is where Mariner finds her opportunity, because she's like, oh, well, I trade in linguistics. I'll help Uhura. And like Boimler's like, you never shut up, don't ruin this for me. And then to take the heat off her, she volunteers Boimler to help Spock.
Yeah.
And he's like, I could always use another pair of hands in case mine get blown off. And then he smiles again.
It's so creepy.
I was like, oh. And then, but again, the personal dialogue is like, he's smiling. Why is he smiling? I don't know. Shut up. Why is he smiling?
Like that's what's so funny. The rapport between them is absolutely amazing. And I love that where we get to Mariner and Uhura. And Mariner is just not helping at all. Uhura's working and Mariner's just there, just talking about everything that she shouldn't be. She's literally telling Uhura about how good she is in the future.
But before that, we do get that quick scene with Una, where Boimler and Mariner are explaining, like, although Boimler was excited to be in this era, he doesn't want to get stuck in this era. He wants to go back. You know, he's like, oh, meeting my heroes, I thought it'd be a blast, and it isn't a blast. And if we do stay here, we'll have to stay off the grid. And Mariner's just like, no, I thrive on the grid. Una comes over. Una comes over, and Boimler just does a fucking runner. And Una's just like, why does he run away?
Hilarious run in the entire world.
I love his run.
Weird little awkward penguin run.
Yeah.
Down the corridor.
I love his run. But then Una pulls up Mariner, and it's just like, why is he running away from me? What does he know? And he's just like, oh, don't worry, it's just Boimler. He's got you on a poster in his bunk. And she's like, so I'm a pin-up girl? And she's like, sure.
You are. The poster is pinned up.
Yeah, sure. And she's just like, I don't want to know. So, but then Mariner and Uhura, so like meeting her hero and then realizing that at this point Uhura is just a workaholic. Yeah. And that she doesn't know how to switch off, and that she's 22 years old and all she does is work, and she's supposed to have fun, and she's got these expectations to live up to. And Mariner being Mariner, she's like, you need a break. Starfleet regulations stipulate this. I know how to exploit them because there's a ton of regulations that cause you to slack off.
Yeah, they can allow you to slack off.
And they immediately go to the bar where she just makes cocktails. Fucking love it.
I love this scene, and I love the random little Easter egg that we have here, which is basically Uhura is like sat at the bar, meant to be having fun with Mariner and Ortegas, who's there, and then instead she's got a pad out and she's still working on stuff.
Yeah.
But she scrolls past where it says it's a page about Cardassians and then a page about Bajorans.
Yeah.
And it's the idea of, is this roughly the time that the occupation starts? Well, how far
No.
is this in relation to DS9? This is about 100
The
years before, isn't it?
So this is 2259, 2260. The occupation of Bajor took place in around 2310, 2320. It was about 50 years, the occupation. I think it was around about the 2320s or late.
I thought it was longer than 50 years, but yeah.
Yeah, it was 50 years. They were aware of the Bajorans and the Cardassians, but I think... I don't think... I think they potentially made contact with the Cardassians, but I don't think there were... I think there was relationships, but it's a very weird one. So, like, at this point, Bajorans and... I don't think Bajorans had warp drive, if I'm perfectly honest
this is
with
the bizarre
you.
thing. So the hilarious thing is that they're aware of Bajorans, and this might even be the time that Bajorans like potentially. No, it was way before that. But
They could have studied them. They could have studied them as a pre-warp species, but I don't.
Bajorans had that Remember the crazy episode where they basically have the Bajoran ship that can actually.
That was a solar sail. Yeah, so they didn't
solar
have.
sail.
So they didn't have warp drive.
Not...
I think there may have been to be honest, if memory serves, I think there may have been an exception for Bajor because the Prime Directive, Trek fact for you guys, the Prime Directive is General Order 1, non-interference of an alien species until they have developed faster than light travel.
Yeah.
So basically, the rule of thumb would be if a species has not developed warp drive, you would not make contact with them. You would not make first contact, but you could observe their development and their evolution. That is what xenobiologists, xeno historians and archaeologists do. They study a species from afar. Bajor, I believe, was an exception to the rule because although they did not have faster than light travel, they made contact with Cardassians in their solar sail ship. Therefore, they were aware of alien species in the galaxy, so they were the exception to the rule. So they did not have faster than light travel, but they were aware that aliens existed. But it's never been fully It's never been fully explored, though.
Yeah, it could be at this point that the Bajorans haven't been contacted, but they're being observed. But I thought it was just a nice little reference. But Mariner is making them a cocktail. What's the cocktail called?
Orion Hurricane, which looked delicious.
Well, I just love the idea that like they're not supposed to be affecting the timeline. And then she's literally like, oh, here's a cocktail from the future, but I don't have half the ingredients because they haven't been discovered yet. You know, or like I haven't... And he's just like, okay, not even attempting.
The Orions have not traded this with you yet, but I will try and make a closer proximity of it. And I'm like, holy shit. But I mean, Uhura's still working, and then she's just like, right, you know, Ortega's just like, during the Klingon War, you needed to take any break you could. And Uhura, gan on her girl, downs the entire drink.
Yeah.
And then as she's doing that, Ortega goes, hey, I know it's like this language. I think it's Nausicaan because someone tried to sell me a Domjot table. And I love the reference to the Next Generation episode where Picard gets stabbed by the Nausicaans.
Yeah.
You know, human, play Domjot. And she's like, oh, yeah, this Nausicaan tried to sell me this like really ancient Domjot table, but it wasn't Domjot and it had this language. And then they realise that the language on the time portal is ancient Nausicaan. So it was like, right, okay. The juxtapose of this scene is Spock and Boimler, where Spock is pulling him up on talking to Chapel, and basically saying he's trying to probe him for answers of the future.
Well, he's basically, what did you say? Because she was very unhappy. Like whatever you said really upset her.
But then Spock's logic kicks in, and then he's like, well, I can't deviate from the path I'm already on, and I can't ask you because you will contaminate that path, and you know that could potentially do the timeline. All the while trying to do this experiment, they see
sensitive experiment.
Very sensitive
they
experiment.
Basically said that there's a 50% chance of success.
Yeah.
And a 50% chance of it exploding and killing them.
He smiles, and then guess what? Kaboom. Absolutely just
blows. I love the idea that it starts sparking and Spock just kind of does a brisk walk away. He doesn't run, he does a brisk walk away. And Boimler's just like, why are you walking away? And he's like, I suggest you take over. You know, and he's like, and jumps behind the thing. Just
I
how
love
calm
that.
Spock is running away from this
Yeah,
explosion.
but then we see we get a really good
And then,
scene
well,
in
we get a big explosion and it takes away a bit of the lab with them. So they're not going to be
yeah,
able to try it again, is the main thing. So they're like, oh, well, that's one path they can't explore more.
but we get a good scene in engineering where Boimler is sat reflecting on what's going on, and Pelia walks in,
Mm-hmm.
um, and Boimler asks Pelia about the Quadrature to Cayley. Have we, been able to find more? And they're like, nope, this is it. This is all that we
Yeah.
had. We've had to give it to the Orion. So this means because we've sold it, the colonists who have been there for generations will have to relocate because they cannot yield any crops on this planet. So he
Yeah.
feels absolutely awful. And Pelia just lays into it and he's like, what we would need is someone to time travel back to prevent you from screwing it all up.
Yeah.
And
Which is true. Like,
yeah, but Bomula knows he doesn't belong there and he's screwing up everyone. And he's like, I look up to everyone, but I'm disappointing everyone and I'm letting people down. Pelia comes up with a quote and she goes, I knew a guy who said, I always pretend to be someone I wanted until I became that person or that person became me. That is a Cary Grant quote.
yeah.
Actual Cary Grant. So Pelia knew Cary Grant. Gan on
Yeah.
your lass.
Well, I like the idea though that effectively the message that she's giving is the fact of he's looking at everyone in the past and being like, oh, they're just normal people. They're not these massive heroes. And it's like, well, yeah, because
Yeah.
everyone fakes it until they make it. It's the idea of everyone like it's like Mariner seeing Uhura struggle. Like Uhura, we didn't mention earlier, but basically Uhura is panicking because she's been told like what a massive thing she is in the future, what a massive influence and the great work that she's known for. And then it puts crazy pressure on her to be, oh, I've got to live up to be this amazing thing. I've got to do all this stuff or whatnot. And I'm struggling right now. But that's the reality. It's the fact of if you can push hard enough, if you can go, hey, I am that person, I've just got to convince myself of it, that when you look back, all you're gonna see is the successes you've had. All you're gonna see is what you managed to pull off. And that's very sound advice from Pelia, which is the idea of going, hey, you might not think you can do it, but just do it.
Zephyrin Cochrane's quote. Don't try and be a great man, just be a man and let history make its own judgment.
Exactly. And this is once again Trek with all the good advice, all of the realistic quotes.
So, Boimler wants to fix things. So Boimler wants to fix things. He heads off to the shuttle bay of the Enterprise, boards the shuttle. Mariner is sat in the dark in this shuttle, and
Well, he kind of comes in trying to be all sneaky and stuff, like going, oh, I'm going to steal a shuttle, and then immediately goes on a corner and she's sat there, and he's
holy
like,
Q!
What are you doing? Yeah, holy Q! And she's like, don't mention Q. They don't know who that is yet.
No, but this is another scene I freaked out about because this is another long-held rumor, but now it's confirmed. Because he says holy Q, she goes, shh, they haven't met Q yet. They had a Trelane thing. Trelane, in the original series, right, was an omnipotent being who could control his surroundings, manipulate matter, and was basically the Q of the original series. And it was never confirmed, but it was confirmed in beta canon in books and stuff, that Trelane was part of the Q continuum but left it. This little throwaway sentence confirms a 35-year-old theory that Trelane is a Q.
Which is fantastic. And it's just
fucking
like we say,
finally
a throwaway line. Like
that is amazing.
Well, to be fair, the original series had Trelane, but it also had, what was he called? Johnny Five or whatever? What's the
Johnny Five?
It's like the third episode where it's got the psychic kid who
falls in love with... he
yeah, but he's pretty
yes.
much omnipotent. He's pretty much a Q. Like
yes, and then he got hatch, match, and dispatched and never talked about again. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And he's just like going, oh, there's a lot of omnipotent people in the original
Well,
series.
that's what you get when you smack Yeoman Rand's ass. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I again, this was a brilliant little throwaway line, and then straight into another throwaway line. Because there's two actually. Because they go, I thought you were working on the translation. Oh, Uhura did it, and it literally just says this is a time portal.
I love it. I love that bit so much.
Fucking love that.
After all that effort,
This is
it's
a time
literally
portal.
just like
And then Boimler's like,
if lost, please return to, you know.
and then Boimler's like, this time is weird. Everyone talks slow and quietly. And I'm like, if that's not a fucking Discovery reference, I don't know what is. Because they're even taking a piss out of Discovery for all the whispering and the slow talking, which is what Michael Burnham is renowned for in Discovery, that and crying. And I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, so Boimler's in the shuttle because he wants to be a hero. He wants to fix things. He doesn't care about the future anymore. So, straight in my notes is spell checked Orions to onions. Very strange.
The Onion Syndicate.
The Onion Syndicate, yes, very appealing.
Onion slave girls. Oh, yes.
Very appealing. Multi-layered society.
They'll make you cry.
Sour cream and Orions.
Killing them will make you cry. Onion slave girls.
Oh my God, the Onion slave girls. Wow.
It's like the cheeky girls, but green.
Cheeky
Actually,
girls.
What would they be green? Would they be yellow? What colour's an onion?
Brown.
White, aren't they?
Brown.
No.
Brown outside. Yeah, brown skin. Tanned skin.
I don't know. They'd be streaked. That's what they would be.
Look, they've got multi-layers. So, so he wants to send a message to the Orions to make a deal to get the grain back in exchange for the portal, because he's like, well, they've taken the portal. We're not going to get back. There's no possible way for us to get back. Why don't we just give them the goddamn portal, take back the Quadrature to Cayley, and save the colonists?
Yeah.
So, as he's about to do that, La'an catches them. They shit themselves and they are taken to Pike's quarters. Pike, again, cooking, because he is just the ultimate fucking daddy that he is. It looked delicious, by the way. I've never wanted a carrot more in my entire life.
I hate carrots.
I know, I hate carrots.
I wanted one.
Yeah. So they're at Pike's quarters. La'an says, you're lucky that Uhura monitors internal traffic and blocked it. Now, there's a plot hole with this. Blocked it. Pike just basically says, I'm confining you both to quarters. Let Starbase 1 deal with you when we get back.
Yeah.
Gives them an absolute dressing down. And then immediately goes to Boimler.
You're confined to quarters for the rest of...
And goes to Boimler. Stop telling him about my birthday party.
Oh, yeah.
Stop planning a birthday party.
Yeah, and then we go into why Pike doesn't want a birthday party.
I love that.
And it's kind of spooky, this, where it's the fact of, like, you know, obviously, like we say, the joke is that they're doing a terrible job of not letting on about the future. But then, like, in this scene, we basically have it where they're going, oh, you're sensitive because you know that you don't have long left, you know, effectively. And Pike isn't shocked by this. And they're a bit shocked that he's not shocked because he knows, like, it's been Pike's big story throughout Strange New Worlds is that he knows that something is going to happen to him and that he's going, well, he thinks he's going to die. I think, you know, he doesn't know the reality of it. But it's the idea of, they're kind of
he knows
you know about that, and he's like, yeah, but that's not the reason.
He knows what's going to happen. He doesn't know when he's going to die, but he knows what's going to happen to him, which will be immeasurably life-changing.
Yeah.
So he's accepted that fate, and then he goes on about his father, because the reason why he's a bit standoffish is because this is the first year he is older than his father when he was going to die, and he left things badly with his father. They had arguments. Sometimes he downright hated him, but he would give years off his life just to have one more argument with his father. And he's like, once this mission is over, I'm going to go to a quiet fishing cabin on one of the moons of Setlik 2. I'm going to fish and I'm going to drink whiskey. And I was like, what a fucking man this dude is.
But then, and he's going to have that argument with his father. which is, so basically,
In his head,
yeah.
obviously.
Yeah, he's gonna get it out. Well, he's just gonna. I love the idea that the reality. It sounds really romantic, but effectively, he's just gonna go and fish, get drunk on whiskey, and just scream at a cabin. And you're like, yeah, that sounds like being in your 40s. I think.
I mean, during the COVID pandemic, all I wanted to do was find a log cabin, whiskey, and just scream.
Yeah.
I don't blame him.
Anything's better than Middlesbrough.
So anyway, I'm not disagreeing. So anyway, he sympathises with Boimler and Mariner, and he's like, I can sometimes imagine what it would be like to step foot on Archer's Enterprise, and this triggers something in Boimler's head. Yeah. You can see the little lights go off, and he goes, I know how we can get home. They meet everyone in the ready room.
Hold on. We've missed out the amazing bit where Pike is trying to dress them down, and then Mariner basically just goes, "Oh, he's just weird around you because he dressed up as you for Halloween once." And then they just go on this bizarre little conversation about how difficult it was to get the jawline right and get all the contour
of the jawline.
Trying to contour the jawline, and then Boimler's just like, it was a process, and it's just the idea of just Pike just standing there, just being like, what is this? But he's smiling at it, he's laughing at it, but it's got to the point where it's gone from frustration at the beginning to just him being like, okay, what? But it's just such an amazing little exchange.
Oh my god. And this is the thing, like, guys, if you haven't seen the episode, it's just full.
You have to watch this episode. Even if you are not a usual fan of Trek, you will probably appreciate how stupid this episode is.
It's stupid and perfect.
Wonderful.
But back in the ready room, Boimler's about to go into a limerick, and it was just like, I could just get to the point.
He's like, oh, I'll lose the limerick. I just love that he, like, why did he decide to do, like, I'll tell them through a limerick. There we go.
But then he goes on about how Mariner and himself visited the Fleet Museum, Atheon Prime, Star Trek Picard.
Yeah.
And they saw the NX-01 in the Fleet Museum, classic design, grapplers, and Mariner's just like, they don't want to know about the grapplers, and I'm just little off quip, just like, I love grapplers.
That's like everyone plays into the humor in this episode, and it works so well between everyone. It's so good.
I love the faces. I love grapplers.
Oh man, I really want to hear what everyone thinks about this. I really want to see what I really want to see what
I feel sorry
Mark thinks about it. I really
Mark, if you are watching this, if you're watching it live or if you're just watching it recorded, please leave a comment. I want to know what you thought about this, because I have said from episode 1, okay, of season 2, there is going to be some sort of Enterprise callback, because there were hints dropped all the way through. Yeah. If this is it, I will be fucking happy. If it isn't, and there's more to come, bring it on. But yeah, and I feel sorry for Trek culture, because Sean and Chris have sort of had to like smash together an episode in the space of a day and edit it and get it up in 24 hours, which their production quality, fucking hell, Chris, you need a big Greg's to do all the effects and everything like that.
Should we send him a Greg's? Should we send him like a Greg's?
We'll start bombarding What Culture's offices with just Greg's.
I'll just go around and I'll throw like a pasty at the door and that.
If anyone wants to clip this, all right, this is a clipping moment. If anyone wants to clip this, What Culture? We are huge fans of all of your shows: wrestling, Who Culture, Trek Culture. We are huge fans. We love Sean. We love Ellie. We love Marcus. We love Chris, the madman. We love Tom.
Let's not go wild here. Let's not go wild.
Shh. We would love for you to come on our show and talk about yourselves and talk about Trek culture. If you don't want to come on the show, that's fine. However, we will provide you with Greg's.
There's a steak bake in it for you.
There is a steak bake. A steak bake?
A steak bake.
A steak bake.
Steak bake.
And maybe a sausage roll. And maybe...
Hang on.
I can't. Oh, hey.
Who's paying for this?
Yeah, no, there may be...
a sausage roll. They're like £1.15 now or something.
I've got the Greg's app, it's fine. And maybe a jam-filled donut. The offer is there, What Culture?
I think we should have lowballed this first. I don't know why you've just come all guns blazing at the top of the...
I am the
We
wolf.
can't go higher than that, Goodwill.
Yes,
we don't have the budget to go higher than a jam donut, a stick back.
I could just see Paul now going, what is he doing?
That's the budget gone.
We made £14 last month. Why are you burning it?
Just spent it on jam donuts.
My Lego budget is ruined.
I'm never getting the Thunder Tank now. Goodwill, you might have cost yourself the Thunder Tank.
That was one caterpillar track of the Thunder Tank.
It is worth it though. If we if we can lure them in, maybe if we get a desk fan and a steak bake and then sort of blow the air towards the What Culture offices.
I will print off signs. I will print off photos of all the What Culture crew and just put them behind me as a homage. Because we are a huge Trek family, okay? There's What Culture, there's Trekkin Up North, there's Shuttle Pod Show, there's Clone Star, there's So Hail. There is so many others. There's Clone Star podcast. We are one huge Trek family that likes to talk about Star Trek. One day, and that day will come, so help me God, and Spectrum Sanctorum, we will have the biggest podcast crossover episode. It's going to be like Avengers Assemble with uniforms from Star Trek.
You do realise, though, and this is just a horrible realisation I've got, we are going to be the Boimler and Mariner of that whole thing.
I will dye my hair purple.
Everyone else is going to be really professional.
I would dye my hair purple.
Talented and clever, and we're literally just going to be like, here's silly shit.
No, can you be Tendi? I want you to be green.
I'll paint myself green.
I want you to be green. I'll be Boimler. I'll dye my hair purple. I don't care. Yeah. Oh, wouldn't it be like...
There's not a race in Star Trek that are just eggs, are there? I could be a shaved tribble.
Young Geesians.
Geesians, no.
Yes.
Don't bring the Geesians.
From the planet Honk.
Honk. It's pronounced honk.
Yeah. Anyway. Back to the episode. What Culture called us. Back to the episode. Yeah, so they basically explain that ships of the time period of the NX-01 used uranium in their hulls. So Ortega says, so all we need to do is find an old NX-01 and pull it out of mothballs. And they're like, well, no, because the tradition in Starfleet vessels is the next vessel to bear the name has a piece of the original vessel or the preceding vessel laid down as the first construction, which is it is a proper naval tradition. So if you have a vessel, when you lay the keel down, you have a bit of the previous vessel in. I didn't know that. Yeah, it's a naval it's a naval tradition. So
that's French for tradition.
The aircraft carrier Enterprise had a bit of the old aircraft carrier Enterprise in its keel, laid in the hull. So it's one of those traditions. So it's nice to see that Starfleet have carried it on. So what they're saying is, we need to locate this bit of the NX-01 with the uranium alloy in it, and we can use that to send Boimler and Mariner home. The question is, they're like, well, where is it? Because no one in the crew knows where it is, because it's one of those. It's one of those things.
Like a plate or something. It's like a random, somewhere here there's like a little commemorative plate.
It's one of those things where the construction yards do it. So the construction yard would place it. So obviously the current crew won't know where this is placed, but it's in there for good luck. It's a good luck charm. So Mariner explains, I know where it is. In engineering, Pellier is kicking the fuck off because they're taking
I love the idea that she knows where it is because they went to a museum and that's the one bit of information that she remembered from the museum trip. Is she was like, oh yeah, I hated being there, but I remember that bit.
So they go back to engineering.
I love they go to engineering. Pelly's
kicking off.
She's kicking off, and she has the wonderful line of "Careful with my floor. I use that."
Yeah.
But the end, it's like the floor, the
The
entire
floor,
floor.
yeah. But I love this. This is great little sub dialogue between Ortegas and Uhura and stuff like that, because Ortegas was a great admirer of Travis Mayweather, who was the first helmsman of the
Yeah.
NX-01. She
A character that never got enough time, I
never
feel.
did, never did.
I will continue going. I will die on this hill of I got really upset with Enterprise, how it just forgot about Travis and forgot about, oh, my favorite character, Hoshi. Like, it's
But
just,
they mention both in this episode
yeah, that's it. It is great. It's
because,
great that
yeah,
I think it's this thing where obviously the wonderful people on the Shuttlebud show, like, it's such a shame that Enterprise never got the 7 seasons it really, really
yeah,
deserved.
yeah.
And so it's kind of good that we're still kind of building on the lore and these characters retroactively now, like,
It's kind
well,
of
post whatever it is.
it's kind of like, and sorry to toot our own horn here. It's kind of weird yet absolutely fucking amazing that we do Trekking Up North. We are fortunate to do this, and we know the shuttle pod show.
Wait, no, it's the sort of thing. We are all a big family.
We are.
You love chatting to, you love chatting to everyone, and
I
the
do.
fact of the Trek community is so involved. Like the fact of they're not like a closed off thing where they're like, oh well, I won't talk to this person. I won't talk. It's the fact of everyone will reply to messages. Everyone will do that. Everyone will think of something and then message it. Like all I do is troll Sean on Instagram. That's basically my involvement in the whole thing. You talk to people proactively, like productively.
Sean is wonderful though.
All I do is just post cheeky comments on his Instagram, and I'm like, that's my involvement. I'm part of Trek culture.
Sean is Sean is wonderful from Trek culture. Mark is wonderful from the whole crew of the Shuttlepod show are wonderful. Connor, Dominic, Erica, they are just it's weird to be like talking about these people and be like, we've spoken to Mark Cartier and we've done it, and it's just like it's humbling, but it brings the Trek world closer. And to hear in this episode Ortega's going on about Travis Mayweather being her inspiration and her high school gym hall being named after him, and then Uhura, I love this full circle of Uhura going, Hoshi Sato was my hero, I wrote papers about her, she spoke 86 languages, and I'm like, it's the closure we never knew. It's like a minor closure we never knew we got, that Uhura was inspired by Hoshi Sato.
Yeah.
And that is, because for those that don't know, Hoshi Sato...
Why wouldn't you? Like,
she's amazing. Linda Park was an amazing actress. Yeah. And Hoshi Sato, for those that don't know, in Star Trek, she was the creator of the Universal Translator.
Which is literally, it's the equivalent of having the person who invented the warp drive, like this is a character. Like, it's the idea of something that is used in every single bit of Trek. Like, it's crazy. It's like literally like, the inventor of the microchip just being like, oh yeah, you're kind of big and everything we do is totally dependent on what you actually achieved. And it's kind of crazy to think that the character didn't really got kind of sidelined in Enterprise.
Yeah.
But no, it's absolutely wonderful that they're having this conversation and pointing out what the main message of the episode is, which is basically your heroes didn't realize they were going to be your heroes.
Yeah.
Like Hoshi didn't realize that she was a big deal, whereas now Uhura is looking back to her as like, a massive inspiration, and yet Mariner is looking back to Uhura being like, oh my god, you're an inspiration. And as we see later, Boimler is looking at Una being like, oh my god, you're a massive inspiration. And that's the thing, it's literally every action you do in your life, someone might actually look back on you as a reason to do something, which is crazy.
It's yeah, and I will never know what that's. I mean, if it ever happened to me, I would probably be very uncomfortable, because I'd be like, why? And I think a lot of people are like that.
Well, don't go into it wanting to be, but basically just like the fact of whatever you do in your life, whatever you achieve, someone might look back on that and see that as an inspiration.
Don't try being great, man. Just be a man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So they
Or be a 50-foot like tall dinosaur.
that's Adam. So they harvest the Heronium. Yes, you're gonna need a longer tongue. Um, or not. I've heard he's quite endowed. So they harvest the Heronium.
Oh,
He's
wow.
gonna kill me for that.
We have been sidetracked. This
It's
is
fine.
I'm calling it now. This is our worst episode. This is our like what the hell are they talking about
Is that
episode?
a '90s reverse psychology as worse as being good?
Well, no, this episode is bad. Bad.
It's rad.
Rad?
So
Oh, okay.
they harvest a Heronium. They synthesize enough for Boimler and Mariner to go home. In the transporter room, Mariner goes up to Una and goes, "Okay, what I said may have been a little bit freaky, but he's literally, you are a pin-up girl, but you are a recruitment poster for people to join Starfleet." And Boimler explains, he's like, "You know, I've got you in my book. You were the inspiration for me to join Starfleet. Your recruitment poster, ad astra per aspera." And you can see Una's face where they put that on the poster.
Yeah.
And I love that. Because that's obviously the episode 2, ad astra per aspera.
Yeah.
That's what she used in her court case. And like, Boimler still tries to make it uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, you're my pin-up in my bunk. I mean, I don't mean to... Oh, God. But I love the part where, like, right in the transporter pad, and Spock's like, "Live long and prosper, Ensign Boiler." And he's just like, I also live and... and he's just...
Yeah, and then it teleports before he finishes the sentence. Well, I like the idea though that Spock is going, "Look, I'm going to be as Vulcan as possible here for the sake of your sanity."
Oh, my God. It was...
So he sends him off like with a he said a Vulcan like
Yeah.
farewell.
Back on the planet, the Orions, Joseph Seed, I'm going to call him, are at the portal. And basically, they're trying to talk down the Orions, as in, you know, standoff. There's a bit of a standoff going on. Boimler and Boimler and Mariner are just having a little witter on, and Pike's just like, "Earlier we were trying to explain this," and they explain to the Orions, "Look, in our time, you know, we are time travelers, and in our time, Orions are seen as more than pirates. You are seen as scientists, and our friend, her grandmother served on your ship, and then I can't remember what they called Tendy's actual name.
Andrea, isn't it?
Andrea of the Winter Wind or something like that.
Yeah.
But then the captain immediately recognizes that. He's like, I know that. And they're like, "Yeah, because her grandmother is on your ship." And Pike does a deal, and he's like, "Okay, we'll do you a deal. We send these back. This will forever be known as the Orions discovering, like Orion scientists," and he emphasizes scientists discovering this time portal. And just that little deal, that little gesture is all that the captain wanted. He's like, that's all I ever wanted.
Yeah.
And he steps back. And
I think that this is so beautiful, and it's also, I think this might be the change in the timeline in terms of,
do you think?
Like, I think so, because the fact is, like, the episode starts off, okay, with Boimler being like, "Oh, Pike discovered this," and then Tenby being the one going like, "Oh no, it was Orion scientists." But then what they're doing here is they're affirming that it is Orion scientists. So you think that in the future it'll be actually history, that it's and I think maybe they have altered the timeline in this little bit to thank the Orions. But I think the best thing about this though is how infamous the Orions are, how infamous the Orion Syndicate is in Trek. And throughout this entire episode, every time the Orions were there, I expected them to act like pirates and betray people. And I fully expected in this scene they were going to be like, "Oh, you're time travelers. Okay, well, we'll kidnap you or something." I fully expected a double cross or them to kick off or something to happen. And then it doesn't. They literally stand down because they want to be known for not being pirates. And I think it was wonderful that I fully expected the worst of them, and they demonstrate that they're bigger than that.
It was brilliant.
And that's the whole point. It's yeah, I don't know how to phrase that properly, but it's the fact that that's what it did to me, and it made me really happy because we haven't had nice Orion characters. Like if throughout all of Enterprise, they're always double crossers. They're always people who have a plan. They're always sort of like brutes, effectively, in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's wonderful here being like, no, there's some of them that want a different life, who want to be scientists. It's great.
So the crew of the Cerritos walk back to the 24th century. Boimler straight away goes to Tendi. You were right.
But no, the hilarious thing is that they're getting up to the portal, and then they can hear Tendi's the voices on the other side being like, "Oh, don't worry, we're gonna come through and get you." And
no,
like, no,
no.
Yeah,
yeah, but
yeah, and then they get through the portal, and then and then it goes back to being a cartoon.
It makes a point of reaffirming to Tendi that yes, it was the Orions that discovered it. Back on the Cerritos, they're in the bunks, and Boimler references those old scientists, and Mariner's like, "Why do you keep saying that?" And it's like, "Oh, it's something."
No. Why do you keep saying TOS?
TOS. It's a callback.
The TOS area.
It's a callback to episode 10 of season 1 of Lower Decks, where Jack Ransom, who's the first officer, who's also Jerry O'Connell from Sliders. They are visiting a planet which was featured in one of the original series episodes, where it was controlled by a computer. I think it was the animated series. I do apologize. And he goes, "Oh, I love those TOS guys," and Captain Freeman basically said, "Why do you keep calling them TOS?" "Oh, I like to call those, all those guys of that era TOS because it stands for those old scientists." And I love the way that Star Trek in itself has sort of retconned TOS to actually mean that era, but in a way that's admiring those old scientists. Like it's the old scientist era.
It's the fact of the characters in Lower Decks are basically just massive fanboys of Trek.
Yeah.
And all the jokes are basically fanboys of Trek, but then they're in Trek. So they're talking about stuff the way we would, where we'd be like, "Oh, DS9 or TOS or whatever." And then they have this little catcher, this little, catch-all of basically going, "Oh yeah, the reason why we're mentioning TOS is not the original series like it is to us. It's those old
scientists, yeah." And then I love this little final bit where Ransom comes back and he's like, "Oh, numero uno, the hottest first officer in Starfleet." And I sat down, I was like, you have to say that because that's your wife.
Boimler's got his poster out, basically, so we get to see the poster they're referencing where it's got Una on it, and it says the tagline above and whatnot, and
it's Jerry O'Connell. For those that don't know, Rebecca, can never get her name. Romo.
I don't know.
Rebecca Rums.
I've never tried to say it out
Una,
loud.
the character that plays Una is actually Jerry O'Connell's wife in real life. So there's been a running gag since Strange New Worlds started because Jerry O'Connell's father spent a day on the subway in New York next to a poster of Strange New Worlds, approaching everyone and going, "That's my daughter-in-law, the first officer of the Enterprise." Jerry O'Connell saw this, freaked the fuck out because he went, "All right, Dad, so your son, who is the first officer of the Cerritos, means nothing to you?" So it's kind of a running joke, but to acknowledge that Ransom thinks that Una is the hottest first officer in Starfleet, it's sort of like, you have to say that because that's your wife. I love that. But then they also find out, because Ransom drops the ball, that Mariner volunteered the team and volunteered to lead the team to the time portal.
Well, she didn't volunteer. She fought for it. She really wanted to do the. She really wanted to go and see the portal
for Boimler.
For Boimler. But basically, after all the stuff at the beginning, basically being like, "Oh, I don't care about it. No, I got stuck doing this job or whatever."
Yeah.
Where she has actually done it for him.
But then the scene closes and we see that the Cerritos is warping away, and we think, "Oh, that's the end of the episode." Or is it? Because the next scene is an animated Enterprise with an animated Strange New Worlds crew. Oh my god.
Yeah. Where we get to see all of the usual cast of Strange New Worlds as
Animated.
animation. Yeah, animated. And it's just a wonderful little thing where everyone gets to speak. It's a bit sinister, like seeing Pike animated and like the animated lips moving with his words.
An
and
amazing
stuff. It's
quaff,
kind of
though.
weird.
An amazing
What?
quaff.
Yeah. They all look amazing. I love how Lan looks. Lan looks great.
Oh, I'm just trying to. I'm looking for the ticker to run across because I've had it in as like the last thing.
Have you?
They traded proper Orion liquor to create proper Orion hurricanes, and they're all having the drinks, and they're like, "What's in this drink? We all feel weird." Like, and Ortegas is like, "Are my eyes bigger than what they should be?"
Yeah, they're like huge cartoon.
Uhura is like, "I feel a little bit two-dimensional," and Spock's arm just starts getting really long, and then we hear Umbenga, probably the loudest I've ever heard Umbenga, just going, "What's in this drink?"
It's a wonderful little Easter egg. It's a wonderful little sort of, bit at the end, because they didn't need to go, oh,
they didn't.
What would they look like animated? But it's a wonderful bit of fan service.
It's loving. This whole episode was a loving tribute to Star Trek fans, Lower Decks fans, and Strange New Worlds fans, and it was sort of, fuck it, I will say it, the best episode of Star Trek since 2005. I will confirm that. I will sign that.
Is that you're going with that?
It's a Goodwill seal of it. It's not the seal of approval. It's the Walrus of Excellence. I adored every little thing about this episode, and holy shit, what a way for Powerman to drop it early to make everyone who reviews and has podcasts put on whatever uniform that they could find and get reviewing it as quick as they could.
Did they do it early?
You
said it was because of San Diego Comic-Con.
It was, yeah. They aired it at San Diego Comic-Con, so to avoid spoilers, they just dropped it for everyone on Paramount Plus.
Right, okay.
And then they were like, ha ha ha, you're not going to wait very long because then episode 8's out on Thursday and then the musical episode is out next week.
Yeah.
Subspace Rhapsody, where we are going to get a full-on musical episode of Strange New Worlds. It's going to be unhinged as fuck. And I can't wait. But guys, that was our review of episode 7, the greatest Star Trek episode since 2005. Thank you so much for everyone. I know you were all waiting for me to game tonight and read some more Sonic the Hedgehog fan fiction, but this just couldn't wait. We needed to get it out. We needed to pour our love for this episode and both series of Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks.
Slap it in your faces.
We will be back this Friday live talking about episode 8. I am going to be so exhausted by Friday. Oh my God. It's going to be great. I'm loving Strange New Worlds. I am just loving doing all this. If you are not a member of Nerdy Up North on the YouTubes,
what you doing with your life?
Subscribe to our channel. Give us a like. Tickle that bell. Caress the notification button. Like a little tribble, like a little newborn tribble. Give it a caress.
Lick, maybe.
All of our socials are down in the description below. Spectrum Sanctorum, Clone Star, Trek Culture, Shuttlepod Show. They are all down there. The lovely 15.5-foot tall behemoth of Adam. All of his music is down there. Give him a follow as well. That's it for us for today. Until we see you on Friday at 7:30.
We'll meet again. Don't know where. Well, actually, here and on Friday.
7:30 p.m. BST.
Yeah.
Until
that really wasn't a very good analogy.
That was an adequate analogy, which is sort of like us phrasing. But until then,
thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. Until then, though, shit.
That's why you need the tappy deltas. That's why you need a combat.
Captain Goodwill to U.S.S. Adequate. 2 to beam up.
Miles?